All right, now I will go ahead and start the tape. You ready?
As close as we can.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome to the Public Works and Streets Commission meeting, Tuesday, June 10th, 2025, 2 p.m. We have in attendance online Don Groth and Alex Cox. No Bob yet, or Jim?
No.
Okay, but we do, and we also have in person Kevin Erdahl and Don Phipps. Myself. In terms of announcements, do we have any announcements or correspondence? I have none. Been a real quiet month.
Yay.
No fire department report, emergency preparedness report. The Connex on radar has been semi-cleaned out and reorganized. A lot of cardboard boxes were done away with. The outside cardboard box done away with, down smaller inside cardboard boxes and available. And the wooden crates for the bladders were taken out. A lot of stuff. So we've got a lot of space in there now. All of a sudden, it made a lot of difference. It was nice. We're in need of doing yet a good re-inventory now that we can see things actually better. Yes.
Bob and Jim and Julie are now online.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. Also, the Crestview, as of yesterday, 3 of the emergency preparedness people, along with myself, we reorganized the first aid and medical supplies, and they are in 5 boxes to distribute as needed during an emergency. And we determined that there is quite a bit of medical supplies that needs to kind of be shuffled back and forth between the two. We have too much of one at one and none at the other, so we just have to reorganize that a little bit. But we also did a little cleanup in there, got rid of a few bigger boxes as well. So that one is being prepared. I did notice that there's far more food and radar than there is at the Crestview. So we need to think about that in the future in terms of how and what, in terms of the supplies. But I have not heard from our student and his means of getting a key in time of an emergency. He and another student designed a box that when the ground shakes to a point of 8.0 near the Connex, it will drop a key down that people can use to open the padlock to open the Connex, which means that people do not have to have the key or know the code for the key box. It would have one available in time of an actual event that's shaking that Connex. It's a free gadget. It's pretty clever. Kevin and I watched it in action up at OSU in Newport, and it's pretty clever. It also will have a flashing blue light on the Connex that lets people know, at least at night, that has happened, that there's been some shaking, and here's where the Connex is and the key. So interesting approach. We'll may not ever get to test it to know if it really works, but that's exactly right. But we know they work.
Yeah.
Okay, emergency prep. Oh, and emergency preparedness is also going to be meeting with Red Cross the end of this month and beginning the process of learning about setting up the Commons as an emergency shelter, getting that fine-tuned.
Bob's hand is up.
Bob.
Yeah, I noticed that the last meeting says I was in attendance, and I don't think I was.
We're not. I corrected that.
You were here in spirit, weren't you?
Well, I was here at home.
I just want to say thank you for all the work you're doing.
Oh, certainly.
Appreciates what you're doing.
Committee's doing a lot. It's an active committee, and that's really great. It really is. They want to do things.
Yeah.
So it's great. Okay, Public Works report. Dave and Rick.
Gentlemen, lady. The month of May was a very busy month for Public Works. I know I said it before, but fully staffed, it's just
It's so
a
nice.
blur over there. You know, everybody's going here and there, yellow shirts everywhere, yellow panties everywhere. So I'm gonna go through the list and just hit some highlights on here. It's kind of a shorter list, but I kind of started to just kind of combine some things. I'd love to individualize everything and give the crew credit for everything they're doing, but let's just say they're doing a wonderful job out there. We don't have time for every little thing, but so I just want to start here with streets. The crew began upgrading the upper portion of Crestview. There's someone about to build a house or do some improving of some private land up there. So we needed to extend the road another 100 feet or so, 120 feet. So we just grubbed it out and we put some rock on it and did this and that. She already had a driveway put in, or access road anyways to her property. So we did that. Moving down, the typical storm drainage clearing and inspection. At the water treatment plant, the crew did a lot of Reedy Creek locating for the capital project on that. We found out a lot of stuff about that AC line. That was very interesting that we ran our camera up it and down it and so on until the camera would flip over and then we had to just pull it back. But very interesting how the joints are with that AC pipe and so on.
Cameras become pretty important, hasn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's very good. On the distribution system, some very good news there. We got, with the help of a contractor, we got 3 fire hydrants installed. 2 of them were new locations and one of them was just a replacement. And we fixed a couple that were bagged, that were not working properly and with a little bit of elbow grease. And if we're going to replace it anyways, we were going to force it and we ended up fixing it. That's
Good.
Yeah, so normally we had them bagged because the valves were not working properly on the hydrant. So a couple of our guys said, well, if we're going to take it out, let's see what happens. They put a little bit of muscle behind it and they broke the stuckness free, let's put it like that. And they exercised it and got it going good. So
Great.
that saved 2 hydrants from being replaced.
One of my friends on Lemwick said, thank you also for getting that one installed.
Yeah, that was a good one there too. Did a lot of valve can maintenance by that, either on water lines or for the hydrant control valves. We did a lot of maintenance on that. We pulled them up and put new valve cans on it and made it easier to access and made sure that the tracer wire, if there was one, was easy to access as well. So a lot of work on the hydrants. And we're hoping to get 2 more installed before the end of the year, the end of June.
Great.
On Driftwood, so we'll see. Since you already brought up that, one of them was on Lemwick. I had that marked on there. That was a big deal. We hired a contractor to come in and do it, and the crew is fairly new, so they got to watch how it's done and see how the process goes. So we learned that, and now we're doing it on our own.
That's good.
And so on. We had several water leaks in town. I'm not sure if that makes up for all the difference in the water accounted for and the water produced, but we had quite a few of them. And while we were doing those valve can repairs, we found a couple leaks that way too. And we were able to repair those leaks we never would have known about. if we weren't fixing stuff out there. So that got taken care of.
So when we talk about the leaks, and it says water loss efficiency of 78%. That means 22% of the water is going somewhere we don't.
That's unaccounted for.
Right, right. So when you deal with the leaks, that supposed to reduce that number, that percent.
Are they isolated to an area?
No, they're all.
They're just scattered
Out the
throughout
ground,
the system.
Up on Hanley.
Don't look at Hadley.
I've been getting lots of reports. It's a very minuscule leak up there. We'll get to it, but it's opened up and we'll figure that thing out too. And so on. So on the wastewater plant, we took a load or had a load sent to Herd Farms. And we spent a lot of time out assisting the contractors the last few weeks. They were getting capital projects done at the wastewater plant and the main pump station. So that was rocking and rolling for that time. Other than that, we did a lot of other stuff. We found manholes that weren't located before, not on the maps or anything, found them from camera work and so on. And just a lot of contractor help and all of that. We did a lot of field work. We removed spoils from the plant, did work out at the city fill site. We're gonna have some trees removed out there as well to extend the life of the fill site as well, and so on. I want to talk about a couple other things, sort of CIP-ish. Crosswalk flashers. We've decided to go ahead and replace the control panels and the buttons.
Excellent.
And they're scheduled to arrive, August 8th or so. So in the meantime, the city manager's approved to move forward with using the flags, orange flags for crossing. Very similar to what they use in Sisters, Oregon. And so on. If you've been over there, or go to the website and you'll see that they use that as well. So we'll put some orange flags up there, and if it works well, then we'll put some more along the way north of town at the crosswalks until
Good idea.
we get things done. So we're trying a certain size of flag first, and then if that works out well, then we'll put some more up. Right, and so on. Yeah, and then I want to add and touch on the paving aspects. That's starting next Monday. On the 16th, and trying to get a schedule from them. They're a busy outfit themselves too, and me asking, hey, can you tell me when you're going to hit each one of these patches and streets and this and that? So hopefully he'll be able to get that to me sooner than later, and we can get our door hangers out and let everyone know that there'll be some inconveniences. And I would love to encourage everyone to please bear with it. It's been several years that it took to get to this point. We really shouldn't be pushing them to maybe postpone for this or that. We're asking them, I asked them if they could kind of deal with the Monday action with garbage trucks, and they did. They're going to try and do like Reeves Circle and Green Hill area instead of Crestview first, just so that Pacific can get their garbage out and all this, but they're gonna start full swing on Monday, the 16th.
Great.
So if I do get a list of when they're gonna pave and where they're gonna pave, I can get door hangers out. In the meantime, maybe we can get Neil to put something on the website as a general citywide warning to work around it.
Warn them as best we can.
Yeah.
Speaking of streets, when is the council planning to discuss the $10 situation, or is that still being planned?
Part of our
discussion
agenda later.
Oh, it's on the agenda later. Okay.
So if I could just touch on a few of the CIPs for this. As I talked earlier, we assisted the contractors with the CIPs.
Hold it.
Hold it.
I've got a question. Have you talked with ODOT about using flags on 101?
No, I haven't, Bob. And if they don't like it, I would suggest maybe they can come tell us about it. But that right now there are people that are running across the street.
Yeah, I know. But if you remember about 10 years ago, they got into a big hassle up in Lincoln City with people doing that. There was some real safety concerns with it. So I'm kind of surprised that ODOT won't be around to comment on this.
I can send him an email about it, but honestly, I am also just prepared to wait, do it, and if they have a problem with it, come talk to us about it, and then we'll figure it out. I don't see how it can be a really big problem. So I would be surprised that it is, but I definitely can email them. I'm surprised to hear that it was a problem, but hearing that it's has been a problem, I'll contact them.
And Bob, this is mainly just to get us through until the flashers get fixed till August 8th. And so on.
I
So
have a question on when you're finding manholes in different locations or lines moved. And I know you're recording them on your documents. Do we have any plans of updating the overall documents?
oh yes, we, at the Public Works building in the shop, we have maps there that we update. And then once we get enough of them on there, we'll send them back in and have the maps updated.
Great. That's great. There are in the Connex sets of maps. I suspect they're rather old at this point. Unless it really matters. I don't know that it's worth doing
Even
again.
if those were put in like in 2015 or something like that, we've had
I'm
improvements.
guessing.
And
Yeah.
We'll take a look at it and maybe we'll get some new ones ordered that are updated.
Yeah, might not hurt down the road.
We've had water lines and.
Major
stuff.
changes. Yeah.
On the CIPs, we did get our PLCs installed, the program logic controllers for the wastewater plant and for the main pump station. Got some new stuff done with that. We got our control panel put in for the grit classifier. We got some VFDs installed. One of them didn't work too well. That's getting reinstalled. So there's a little bit of work that's supposed to get done in the next week or two. But then that'll wrap up this year's capital improvement projects for wastewater, other than the gate that's getting put in next week. I think it's going to start midweek next week at the Public Works shop. But yeah, there won't be any other new projects starting until July 1st.
July.
So then we'll carry on with what didn't get done.
One question on the flags, I have to go back to,
Oh, please do.
I was just curious. Those are like something that someone's gonna grab and wave as a cross, is that how it works?
Yeah,
Okay.
very simple.
Okay, so they'll be like in a stand on either side and someone just grab
Yeah,
it?
just as simple as it sounds, we're gonna probably get some PVC 6-inch pipe with a cap on it. We'll hose clamp them to both of the posts there, and flags will fit, the handles will fit inside that. When they cross, they'll just grab one of those if they feel the need to.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's about it for,
Good. Yeah. Doing a lot of work.
yes.
Lots getting done. That's nice. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Okay. So, the East Second Street bids came in. I don't think I talked about that last time.
No.
$407,000. And it was really competitive. We had
Yeah.
a total of 6 bids, but one had to drop because they made a big mistake. But the bids went 407, 416, 418, 429. And 563.
Yeah.
But 4 of them are really close.
Validated the number.
Yeah, so that tells us that the bid is reasonable.
Is that what we estimated about in that?
The estimates were a little low on the water line. We had to add $100,000 to the water side of it. But on the other hand, when we originally started, we thought we were gonna spend like 200,000 or more on pavement and storm drains. But we didn't get that grant, so we got it down to like 60,000. And that's just gonna be patches. And we'll evaluate it after it's done to see if it needs a complete overlay another year, some other time, that's what I'm saying. So that turned out pretty good. We're gonna have it presented to council next week. Hopefully they'll okay it. And then Reedy Creek, like Dave said, they were up there doing a lot of work. That line was put in, I think, in 1945. And so there's no maps. And it's kind of a little windy, bit of a windy road, not too bad, not too bad. But originally we thought we were gonna pipe burst it. I think I talked about that a year ago. And then the engineer thought, well, with all those curves, probably can't pipe burst it because you kind of need to pull it down a line. And if there's curves, you kind of got to stop and realign everything. It could get real expensive that way. But the work that Dave and the crew did was they found out that, yeah, it may go across the lines, but it goes from one side of the road to the other. It's rounding the corners, so there's no sharp.
Okay.
And the engineer thinks that we can pipe burst that, make it a lot easier. He's gonna be preparing an estimate for that. In the budget, we put $300,000 in there. And he's thinking it's gonna come closer to 4. So after I get that estimate, I'll present it to everybody and see if we want to move forward or wait. But it'd be another $100,000, so that's $200,000 altogether that we didn't really plan for.
And if it waits a year, it may be another 100,000 too.
True story, yeah. It really is.
Yeah.
And we need the water.
Yeah. Yeah, and and that's gonna be kind of tricky too, because we might have to do that one in the off season. Because Reedy Creek will be offline for
Primary source.
a couple
Yeah.
of weeks at least. Yeah. So we'll have Salmon Creek will be enough to help us. But if we did it during the summer, we'd have to use South Lincoln water. South Lincoln, we're preparing another agreement for this year. It's renewed every year. And there'll be a $10,000 fee. And then a monthly bill with base rate. They charge by the day. So that'll probably go till October or something. Then we'll tell them to stop it. And I was talking with their crew, and we're gonna, in a few weeks or a month, gonna exercise the connection. And there's a possibility they may want a fresh meter put in there for accuracy purposes, so there's no arguments. I told them it was relatively new, with not very many miles on it. So, but on their side of the big box out there, there is a pressure reducer. So when we send water to them, we have to reduce the pressure. And that pressure reducer is old as time. And they didn't budget any money for it. But that's not very much. I told them, we'll buy it. But they have to install it because it's their system. And we have money in our budget to do the odds and ends like that. But then after the exercise, then we'll be set for the summer. Yeah, I'm reviewing their water conservation and management plan is done. It's in the review stages now. And as far as I know, I'm the only one reviewing it. But they got a lot of water and it in time, I think we'll get our long-term agreement that we're looking for there. They're kind of a one thing at a time group, you know, they only have water. Well, we have all these other things. So they're very methodical. Right now, they're having some management issues and it's kind of sucking up their bandwidth. So it's been, good things are gonna happen. They just happen slower. The new reservoir site. From what I hear from Bobby, maybe this week. Yeah. It's getting real close.
Good.
We're going to, as soon as we get the paperwork signed, I'll call the engineer and I'll call our excavator guy. I'll hook those two guys up together. And the excavator guy can go to work on the little pathway. And simultaneously work with the engineer to make sure it's all correct, because they want to do 3 spots. So we got where the center of the reservoir is going to be, then one on each side.
Okay.
But I want them to work with the engineer on that. And then notifying the engineer will also notify the geotech crew, so we can get on their schedule with a hard date.
If the geotech will do whether it's stable or not, right?
Yeah.
And if their finding is that it's not stable, do we have to look somewhere else, or what's your?
Well, we'll wait and see. You know, usually even if it's unstable, there's always a way to do something if you want to do it bad enough. So we'll have to see what those obstacles are, if there is any. And I keep hearing just during the budget meeting, somebody was saying that one of the reasons that Sierra went over budget is because they ran into rock. And that's what I want to hear.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So all the signs are pointing that it's going to be pretty good. But if it's not, well, it's a big piece of property. And we've had other properties more toward Chief Albert Drive on that direction, who's offered to let us check out his property to see if it's a site. So we're not tied down to one place if it fizzles out. And we're still going to be looking for grants. We got a long road ahead of us.
Mhm.
What's the elevation of the site? Do you have some?
I'm looking for something around the 220 foot.
And that's where this is at, about 220?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's where our reservoir's at now up on radar. So it's exciting, you know, I hate waiting. You know? But good things. Yeah.
Yeah. Foundation engineering, the
Yeah.
geotech.
Ocean View Drive curb or paint. I've been bugging the engineer and it's just gonna be a slower process than what I like. He's overwhelmed right now. And so he's also doing the PUD undergrounding for the boardwalk area. We decided that even if we don't put the boardwalk in, we still want that underground electric over there. So couple street lights. Fancy ones like out here, so they'll all match. So that's the curb and the PUD. During the council meeting, left there thinking a tall curb. But man, I've been getting it from all directions. You know, so I don't think it's a solid plan yet. I don't have my heart set in. So I told the engineer, don't be drawing up real fancy drawings, just something to present with cost estimates. And for a curb, a painted pathway with high quality paint. So like I've seen pictures where it's like blue or something that really distinguishes a path. And then you can get to run over plastic curb things and line it. So I told him that whatever he presents, be prepared to change it. So, all right, you know, but he's gonna be doing it's gonna be like a cookie cutter, you know, he's doing rough survey, an aerial survey, doesn't have to be perfect. And then decide where the drainage areas are, so if it was a curb in certain spots, you'd want an opening because drainage will need to go. So those pieces will all be figured out. Then it'll just be what do you want to put there? Did I tell you we got a grant for the feasibility study? Last time, we got $100,000 to put toward the feasibility study for the new reservoir site.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so we're thinking that was 212 or something like that. So we got 100. So I'll cut it in half.
That's good.
I got some ODOT stuff to talk about when I see it's further down
Further
in
down.
the agenda.
Actually, it is, but it isn't.
Huh?
Oh, we have finance, that's right.
Yeah,
Although finance will be short, I think, because we don't have a May finance report, so.
okay, that's all I got on my list, except for ODOT stuff.
Okay.
Any questions? I'll just sit here, listen.
The boardwalk, you said, you kind of made it kind of seem like it's up in the air, or we.
Well, we don't know if we're gonna get the grant, you know, it's $1 million.
Yeah.
And if we don't get the grant, the city will have to decide if they wanna wait another year and try again. Or, deep down into the pocket, pay for it, but I just don't know, I don't know the players in it, but I think it's got a 50-50 chance if we don't get the grant. That's a lot of money. And, yeah, I just don't know enough to talk about that, if it's gonna happen or not, but I know that the grant, we just missed it by a little bit last time, so hopefully this time we'll get it. There's been a lot more, city managers involved. It's a bigger push this time than it was last time.
And it's for the full amount,
I think 750.
so.
Yeah. Full cost estimates 900, and that includes the undergrounding.
Yeah, so the grants, I think it goes up to 750. But you may not get the 750.
Yeah.
If it's 750. So it's something we're gonna have to evaluate, when we get there.
When are they supposed to hear on the grant?
I think that's November.
I will go over in July, the last week of July, and do a presentation to the State Parks Commission. So there was a handful of selected applicants to do the presentation to kind of answer questions and discuss the project in person and further. So we made it to the second round at least. So from there, then they will have more information and be able to see photos and things like that. I'll put together a PowerPoint and then we will find out in probably the September timeframe. You know,
So the last time she did something like that, we got $100,000. Well, I can't take credit for that.
Is the road now officially yachts?
Yep.
All right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We do have signed, sealed, and delivered jurisdiction over the Yachats Ocean, or not Yachats Ocean Road, the Ocean View Road.
Yeah.
Jurisdiction of the city of Yahat, so we don't own it per se, but we have jurisdiction over it, so we pay to maintain it and have the, can do what we would like to do with it.
And does that include the delineators?
Nasty word, that's a nasty word.
Isn't it funny how some words, start to
What's a better word? What word can we come up with?
bike path?
The dividers.
Path?
The dividers.
Okay,
Yeah, just done.
finance. Don, do you want to cover anything or, because I think we did
We covered
last
the,
month. Yeah,
only a few comments, and kind of general. I thought the budget process and budget meetings went really smooth this year, and everything kind of fell into place to what we asked for and Public Works asked for. So I feel pretty good about the process in May on the budget committee. And I can understand a little bit on the delay on May. We'll have to take a look at that. And then, so if anybody has any questions, you can send them to me or make a list and send them to Lynn, and we'll do some more questions or answer the questions as best we can.
so we'll cover May's next month. then.
Right.
Okay. Julie, anything on budget? Any comments?
No, not really any comments. We're working on the final forms that need to be approved by city council, called the LB1. And then I think we'll be set.
Good. Good. Seems to be going smoothly.
Yeah, I just like to also follow up on Julian, Don's comments to the budget. I think that this year did go really well, and I really very much appreciated working with Julie through the process. She's been great, and as you all know, I'm familiar with her wizardry and spreadsheets has been fun, and I think that our goal was to really ensure that it was digestible and easy for anybody to read, a citizen to pick it up and read it and be educated on the process and learn about it, and to really took it to the next level this year with the budget summaries and the budget at a glance tables that really kind of put all of that fine detail and line item detail into a really easy to digest and understand snapshot. So that was something that Julie helped us do also. And I think it's it's really helpful to the everyday budget reader.
I agree. I've gone through it and I thought, I mean, it was very friendly to go through.
Mhm.
You didn't feel like you were just kind of looking at a bunch of numbers. It was much better. And I would encourage anybody to do look at it, go through it and understand what happens in the city.
It really tried to explain it, all of the nuts and bolts of all of it and how it works and why and what the numbers represented and how they're being used. And also the form of government, how the city operates kind of from a base level.
Sounds great.
And
Yeah.
in the back, it even, because really the budget and the city's council goals formulate our work plan for the year. So we included all of the city council goals as the work plan in there. So it's really like the book of the work plan for the year for the city.
It's what we should refer to periodically for the next year.
Yeah.
So thank you, Julie, for your help, and Don for your help in being on the budget committee, and Rick and Dave and Neil. I know you're there for your contributions to the project. It was a big and fulfilling project.
Yeah,
Mr. Rick again.
okay, we're back. Okay, one thing I'll start out with Don and I worked on a response letter. Don did, and I learned something right after I sent it that I shouldn't get ahead of the ball. I didn't know that council was going to be talking about that a couple days later. So, you know, I gave them a response, but it all turned out pretty good because Bobby set a meeting up with the engineer and their maintenance supervisor who created the report. And they came over and we met with them. And they went through the whole report from one side to the other. And it really sounds like they don't want it. They think the traffic flow is fine by their information. It fits within their standards. So we can still say, okay, but we want to have a hearing. So we're thinking about having a hearing, but narrowing our focus a little bit. Because they gave us the reduced speed by the fire department. What if we said, we just want a sidewalk down there by Estera, going across Diversity Lane there across 101. And from what I understand, either it has to be 25 miles an hour to have a sidewalk, or you have to have an island in the middle.
Right.
So what about having a hearing to see if we can get a sidewalk?
Approach it different direction.
Yeah, there, you know, because I said in my initial letter to them, one end of town to the other.
Mhm.
And that didn't go over. Like I only had one win, and that was the north end there. But maybe we can get another little win and get a sidewalk down there. First, I didn't like the idea of an island. But I think an island would be traffic calming. As you come into town, there's a little island there. It makes you kind of want to slow down, especially if there's a crosswalk there. And then on top of that, traffic calming measures, we talked to ODOT about this too. Getting a portable speed sign. And we found out as long as it's not blocking the sidewalks or the bike lanes, we can put it in quite a few different places. It gets hard with ODOT when you mount a permanent sign, but if you have it on a trailer, you can pretty much put it where you want. And I don't know if you've heard this or not, but the one that we're looking at is calibrated. It's certified calibration that the police officer could use it as a ticket writer. So that's pretty cool. She can tow it around wherever she wants. Sit back in a spot where she can see it. And then just do her traffic study that way. Because one of the things she pointed out, I think it was council meeting, is that if her nose is pointing out toward, and 101's going this way, her radar system doesn't work. She has to be parallel with the traffic. So she'd have to park. It really limits where she could do that. If she had a trailer, she could do that about anywhere. So we got those options, but and I even think that ODOT will say, even with the island, that we need our transportation systems plan. I think it's worth going just to meet more ODOT people.
Yeah.
So today, I started looking at the deadlines for the TMG grant. Good thing I looked. It's due on July 31st.
Oh, okay.
So we have a month and a half to do that. And this time we have Wei, she used to work for the county, and she works some department that helps out with this stuff. And so we're gonna be getting a hold of her for assistance. I heard through the grapevine she offered help. So we got our previous information all on paper and her direction, because she helps decide where some of these grants go, or points. And so I'm gonna ask Bobby we should get a hold of her and see what type of help we could maybe get from her and start applying ourselves to fill that application out. As you know, Don, it's quite large.
Yeah. It looks like Don Goff has something.
I was wondering if, since you're talking about islands, if we could put in the mix as part of this, finish putting an island at Lori Lane, because it's already halfway there. I mean, there's not much more they need to do other than formalize it and maybe do a little bit of work to create the island and a crosswalk there at Lori Lane and 101.
Only thing I got a problem with that on is that particular area is involved in phase 2 of the 101 project. And they're gonna have to widen the road in that area. And how they do that, I'm not sure. I know they're gonna have to cut into the rock bank. That's how the rock bank got there, because they cut into it. Just have to go a little further. And also the easement to the west goes further than it looks. So like I said, I don't even think we'll get the island this time around without the transportation plan. But Bobby's got away with these people. And it's better work. Yeah.
Did they describe the island? I mean, you get different pictures in different communities. An island is a raised concrete area, or it's just striped area.
Yeah, I don't know.
I would think, I mean, because you're talking near sea air, that it would not be raised, because then they have to deal with ramp up, ramp down because of their
I've seen them
population.
with a sidewalk right through the middle.
An island with a walk
Yeah,
between, yeah,
yeah.
okay.
But meeting some of these people could help us.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, if they said, yeah, island's a pretty cool idea, we can support that. All right, how do we do it and where do we get the money?
Yeah,
One step at a time, yeah.
yeah, that's the issue with the islands. You know, we're talking 81 seconds to reduce the speed to 25. into section A and section C. It's a it would take the commuter 81 seconds longer to travel through the entire city of Yachats. That's what we're talking about, a little over a minute. Rather than do that, they would rather pay a lot of money to put islands across the 40-mile-an-hour zone.
Well, we don't know if they'd pay for it or not.
They made section A and section C.
Yeah.
The only way to meet their standards is to put an island in. Now, the islands look like they would require widening of the road around the island, so the road would spread out around the island. And my thinking is you probably want in the 40-mile-an-hour zone, at least on the north side, at least 2 islands. Possibly one at King and then one down further. And then maybe Don Groff has mentioned an island there at Lori Lane. Now, I know that's tied into what we might be doing with sidewalks. But you might want to have an island down on the south side near Reeves Circle. Is that what it's called? Where there's a public access point that you can walk.
Mitchell Lane, yeah.
Yeah, there's an access point where the city has the ability, so people can crossing from the east side, 101 can walk down to Yachats Ocean Road. Right there in the middle, right? There is a place like that. Right.
I
On
don't know.
Reeves, yeah. So that might be another place where we could put an island.
Well, listening to you talk just reaffirms we need a plan. Because the plan, I looked into what it takes to make the transportation plan. It's really elaborate, the time and the community input that goes into it. Walport did it a few years ago, and they have a webpage that had all the different phases that the plan had to go through before you got it in your hand. And it takes time.
Yeah,
And part of the grant, as you've seen in the past on the application, you really got to prove you got staff that can help administer all this stuff, because of all the public inputs and footwork that you have to do to get the information all down in the plan.
yeah.
So I think you got good points, Don. I just can't do nothing with it yet.
Yeah, well, Philomath, when they put in their sidewalks and had that whole redo of their, if you guys been through that.
Yeah.
It was a 20-year deal. From the time they conceived it to the time it actually happened.
I like
20 years. I mean, I'll be dead before we have those.
But we'll put you a little flat.
Out on an island.
But
Yeah.
my point is that the 20, if we could get them to, even on the north side, to 25 miles an hour. So as they enter town and they travel all the way through to section B, which is the village center section, which is already 25. We know, for example, that there's extensive speeding going on in the village center, which is, where you would think people would automatically slow down just
Yeah.
because that's where all the businesses are and people pulling in and out. We've got parking on the side of 101 highway, so people are backing in and doing stuff. So it's one of those things where if they would agree to drop the speed to 25 in the north section, I think that would be a real strong.
Oh, yeah, you never know what happens. We could eventually wear them down.
Yeah.
It turns into their idea.
Yeah, and the reason for getting them
I forgot it. I forgot it.
No worries.
I'll get it to you. Thank you. Sorry.
the reason to get them to drop the speed to 25 is that then we could have painted crosswalks, right?
Yeah.
We wouldn't have to have islands. Painted crosswalks, just like we have downtown here. And those would not require an act of God and major funding to create. So,
Well, when we go to have a hearing, it's not filled with ODOT higher ups. It's a community person, you know, it's still knowledgeable people, but it ain't like a secret society of ODOT people.
Yeah, Jim Welch did some research on that, found out there's 6 people on there, or 5, I think it is. One is from the League of Cities, one represents law enforcement. ODOT has 1 person, and then there's 2 other people that are regulatory or not really. And so you have a better than even chance of prevailing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know how everybody feels, but, you know, it seems like 81 seconds is not that much to ask.
Well, what makes sense to us?
Yeah.
You know, like I said, you know, if we keep coming at them, and if the plan says that's the best approach,
Yeah,
you know,
the
it's
plan will carry a lot of weight.
yeah, it's right now, it's just a voice that they're hearing, no matter if we put it in writing. Without that plan, there's nothing concrete. So everything evolves around that plan. So hopefully we'll get it this time. And
Yeah.
then we'll be off to the races, and you'll have a lot of opportunity to put your input in during the plan development. What you want your plaque to look like.
It's not a flag, man. I just want to be able to cross the street safely. To cross the highway safely and get to the trails that are so, you know, part of what makes our town really beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's one of the
And
reasons.
it's not just me, but it's lots of the people in my neighborhood that like to walk across and enjoy walking along the coast and providing safety to those people, I think is really an important part.
Oh, yeah,
Of what
it
we
is.
have done.
It is, you know, it's. ODOT has safety in mind and keeping that traffic moving. And so. You know, there's gonna be a lot to that plan, more than just 101. So. I look forward to it if we get the chance to do it.
Yeah.
Cause it will cost, if we don't get the grant, it's $150,000, so
At least,
just for our plan.
yeah, at least.
So that's all I got. That's my ODOT stuff. Any other questions or anything?
So on the camera, you said that could tie into the law enforcement officer. She can see.
That's just not gonna happen on the
Okay.
camera system. We talked to him about that too. And number one, it has to be attached to a street light. A stoplight. And I asked if there's any towns along the coast that have traffic cams. No. There's some in Eugene or something like that, but they're all attached to streetlights. So I'm not saying it's an impossibility, but it's a big animal.
I was referring to this current thing that we're buying.
Oh, the portable sign.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I thought you were talking about the ticket.
No. I was curious you mentioned that could be tied into the officers, you know.
Just a visual.
Yeah, so she'll see someone is speeding above 36 miles an hour in the 25 mile an hour zone. And then she'll be able to go after them.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And you know, it's about a 10 mile an hour forgiveness.
Right.
So. Yeah. We're doing a good, we're making progress.
It's a step.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think if we put that camera out there, it would be nice from a point of view of data collection to have it in the same place for, say, a month
yeah,
and then switch it. So we have 1 month's full data in one location. And if we're doing it along the 40 mile an hour zone, that would be really helpful.
yeah, that's where we need it more than anywhere.
Be Rick. Yes, Jim. Are you advising us not to have the meeting with ODOT the hearing with their speed panel?
No, I'm saying
Okay.
that probably should.
So we're going to go ahead and request a review of the ODOT's decision on this speed reduction.
Yeah, we want a chance to talk to them.
And we can all bring our wheelchairs and canes and impress upon them that we want to have this done before we die.
I have a feeling it will be Bobby and I in some boardroom somewhere. Completely outnumbered.
Yeah.
Well, I understand the public can speak as well.
Okay.
Hey, Rick, one other thing. I think you gave me a number for the dividers, for the walk, the islands for the walk, for the crosswalks. I thought you gave me a number like $250,000.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just incredible amount of money if we want to put those 4 crosswalks in that Don's talking about. If we can't reduce the speed.
Yeah, that's when we hope to get grants. You know,
That's a big number.
it is. It's a big one. You can't get nothing unless you try.
You and Bobby try hard at the meet when we go to the safety panel.
All right, thanks, man.
Thank you.
Thanks. Did you want to talk about anything else?
No, I think what we're doing is making progress. Is what you're
I agree.
saying.
I agree.
And, but I think that, it's real interesting, this notion that we have to tie it to a stoplight, the speed enforcement cameras. There's a couple of things I would like to say. One is that the speed enforcement would simply be, the camera enforcement would be simply enforcing ODOT regulated speeds, their own speeds. The city didn't create those speeds, ODOT created those speeds. So, those speed limits. And so enforcing those speed limits, it's a shame that ODOT can't be, more willing to consider how those speed limits should be enforced. It's interesting. They create these rules that seem to me to work, that they're work against regulating the speeds that they themselves have set. Does that make sense? It's like, I don't get it. Secondly, the legislation that the governor approved did not say anything about speed enforcement cameras being tied to lights, stoplights. There was nothing in that. So this is simply an ODOT created, I don't want to call it supplemental rule or some kind of thing that they have in their regulations that wasn't really mentioned in the legislation at all. So I think some of this stuff really needs to be clarified. And the final thing I'll say about ODOT is, I don't know if anyone read the article in the Lincoln Chronicle recently about ODOT's funding, that they're understaffed, their people are stressed out, and they don't have the funding necessary to do all the projects that they currently have lined up. And I really find it hard to believe that they would have funding to do anything like islands in Yahas. So we're really talking about kicking the can way down the road. If we can't prevail on them to drop the speed limit. So those are my concerns. I think what the city's doing is very good. It's a help. And at least we've got everyone kind of in the same boat on this. But we really need to have, and I do want to say also, speed enforcement cameras, as you can tell from my tables that I presented before in this commission, would add significant amounts of money to the city's coffers. So there's a financial incentive to moving forward in this area as well. I don't know if that's any incentive at all to press forward with some sort of discussion with ODOT on this about tying it to stoplights or not, but I think given our current issues with finances, it might be helpful. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay, thanks, Don. Does anybody else have anything today? I have a question. I guess I'll direct it to city manager and public works. We need some focus. We don't really have anything to be focusing on. We don't have any projects to be looking at. We don't, what do you want the commission to be doing?
Good question. You either.
It'll come to me right before I fall asleep.
I don't expect an answer, but I'd like it to be considered. I mean, I think the commission needs something to focus on, really.
My thought is that we should take a look again at the goals that the city council have put in place and see if there's any projects on that can be worked on.
I mean, certainly CIPs and
Yeah.
those kinds of things, but I mean, something that we as the commission can really be doing.
Yeah.
I think would be good to have a real focus.
If there's something on there that could be a real direct focus of the group. Yeah.
I do have just a little thing.
Okay,
I asked a couple people involved with the fire department for them to give us some suggestions for a hydrant placement. And still haven't heard anything back. They're busy too. Maybe if you guys wanna find some locations for us.
okay. I know Frankie was asked that question directly, and she talked about higher up, certainly. That there's a lack of, but we can fire hydrant locations, okay? Does anybody?
Lynn, if you guys come up with the suggestions, then Rick and I can see if it fits. Pipe sizes and all that stuff fit, and then
I think a general idea of where is about all that we could come up with, and yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Gonna attend, so
Bob,
Yeah, I would like us to go back and review the goals
Yeah.
and look at those goals and see what we can use to drive out something that we could work on. I know a couple of times we've talked about trying to get this, study with ODOT off the ground, and that sort of has been overwhelmed by a lot of things. Yeah, we're going to have to watch what's going on with the ODOT funding because the legislature is going to have to come up with a plan sometime in the next 2 weeks that they can get passed. And it's probably going to spend more time focusing on maintenance.
Yeah.
So maybe we can use that as a way to look at what are the things that we need to do on our own streets. Look at prioritizing the streets that we've got and trying to work through some ways to do that. We were very successful in working on the, I think it was the 2nd Street west side, where we worked with the community to put some stop signs in to help slow that thing down.
right,
If we could do these kinds of
that's right.
things and looking at our goals and develop some mini projects that re-engage the community in some of this, I think would be a good place to start.
Good point, Bob.
I agree, and I was curious, I mentioned about the $10 fee. Is that gonna be heard by the city council in this next meeting? Is that?
We discussed it in our May work session. and had quite a lengthy discussion, and we are tasked, Rick, Dave and I, to put an implementation plan together and a communication plan, and we're starting that tomorrow. And then it will not be heard at this June city council meeting. We have a pretty full agenda, but we're looking towards July.
Okay, July, good.
Rick?
I attended a TMG webinar today. And they said they have $2.5 million for transportation plans this year. That equates to about 10 or 15 towns. So hopefully we'll get one.
Yeah. How about a charge to all commission members to come up with at least one project based on the council goals by next meeting?
That'd be
Well,
great. And
Listen.
could you- I'm sorry, go ahead, Alex.
I have a suggestion based on something that Don said. And this isn't really something that the committee could do, but if it is true that the legislation enabling speed cameras doesn't mention they're being attached to stop lights, and if that's an arbitrary rule that ODOT have invented for themselves, I would like to ask the city attorney just to look into that and tell us whether there is a legislative or legal basis for what ODOT are claiming. Because if ODOT have just taken it upon themselves to invent this rule, then as Don's observed, we would make a lot more money for Works and Streets and for the city with a speed camera than we would by charging every homeowner $120 a year.
I mean, I agree with that totally.
And it wouldn't mean spending a little bit of money because the city attorney would have to actually look into the specific legislation and tell us whether ODOT are on solid grounds or whether they're not.
Yeah, well, from my recollection of the conversation, it's not that you can't have one not attached to a speed light. It's just they do not have any at this point in time that are not attached to a speed light. Every single one that is available or is up in operations is attached to a speed light.
But if it's not a rule, then there's nothing to stop us.
There's just not one that is in place. The thing that would be stopping us would be cost and will of the council, if that was what they wanted to do or not. But it will be Rick and I have dug into it quite a bit, and it is very, very expensive. And from the third party agencies that we've contacted, it looks like they collect up to 80% of the fees themselves, and it will cost $500,000 to $1 million to put in place.
Well, that's what I'd heard. I'd heard that the companies that do this just extract almost all the revenue and the cities get very little. But the thing that Don came up with seemed to suggest that maybe that wasn't correct, but I don't know it.
I didn't see on his list. I just saw what could be made. I didn't see that there was anything accounted for with the cost of the installing and or the fees collected by the third party agency that would run it and monitor it.
Yes, that's correct. But the only thing I have is as a data point was the article talking about this in the city of Albany, where the treasurer said that they expect their coffers for the 1 year, this year, they expect to see an increase in revenue of $3 million for their speed enforcement cameras. Now, I would assume that would be less costs. So I think the revenue there is fairly substantial and substantial enough to deal with a revenue cost of even $500,000 to $800,000. That's not to say that I don't believe we should not look at that cost side. And I mentioned to Lynn that I thought a work group would make a lot of sense here. Because a work group could look at, could talk to the cities. My own personal idea was to talk to Bend, Albany, and Tigard. And ask them what they're doing, how much revenue they get from it, what's the cost side, and what vendors are they using. So, and not with the idea of saying we recommend that the city go forward, but simply as an advisory to the city that here's what we found. And leave it at that. You know, we could do this as a volunteer group and not have to incur costs for consultants and all the other things that might be required if we were not to do it as a work group. And I haven't heard, I asked Bobby in a memo about, I guess, a month ago or so, but I've not heard back on that. I know she said she would consider it, so maybe she'd comment now, I don't know. On the work group.
Oh, are you asking me a question?
Yeah, I was asking you,
City consider it.
have you decided on a work group for the? Okay.
No, but I definitely have it on my radar.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, and I just want to make sure you understand that it's not something where we would recommend to the city to go for something like this. Simply, it would be an advisory.
So right now, I think what we've got going on right now, I have the idea of a work group, again, like I said, on my radar, but right now what we're looking at is really one foot in front of the other. And as Rick lined out earlier, that's gonna be continued conversations with ODOT between he and I and the next steps with the study. And then the transportation grant management application, we're putting that through, we're putting a application in for the safe streets, and we are purchasing this speed radar. So those are right now where we're gonna be focusing the first steps of our efforts towards pedestrian and speed safety. And that's what we've got going right now, and then we'll consider next steps a little bit later down the line.
Okay, because none of this is mutually exclusive. We've talked about this before too. We could do the work group on the side without the city really being tied into anything, nothing being taken from staff or anything. It'd all be done by volunteers.
Right.
And
But all
I
the work
haven't.
groups do include staff. We don't have work groups go off without staff.
Oh, okay, all right, I didn't know that. Okay, all right, very good.
Mhm. Yeah, we need to keep all of the work that's done on behalf of the city wrapped in the city
Okay,
work. So, you know, we have capacity, and we're working on things right now, and we can get through some steps, and then we can look and reevaluate where we're at and what the next steps will be. So it's definitely on the radar, and we know that it's something that is out there and there's interest in, and things take time.
yeah, I mean, it would be curious, that's why I'm real curious about this movable trailer thing. If we have it in the 40-mile-an-hour section,
Mhm.
then we can see just how much speeding is going on there. And you know, that's additional revenue beyond, because the data we have is only in what ODOT classifies as section B, which is the downtown area. But on the two ends of the city, we don't have any idea of the speed.
Sure, and then what we really needs to be considered in all of that, though, is the expense too, and what would actually be collected, you know, that's something that would need to be. When we can look at that further, that has to be included into the equation.
Yeah, that's what the work group would focus. So,
If there's nothing else, meeting's adjourned.
Wow.